I always do a cultural assessment question when I go into an organization before I do any training. I say, do you feel like you're part of an organization that has your back? And 60% of the employees sometimes say no. And we've got some work to do. So I think the yin and the yang is your job as a leader is not to take care of the patient, it's to take care of the employees, giving them the tools and resources and removing the barriers for them to do their job.
Hello, everyone. Pierre Monice here, and this is another exciting episode of the World Class Leadership Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, today is a day. I have my good friend. I'm excited. Literally, whether through text messaging, email, phone call, I never leave an interaction with this gentleman without being excited, inspired, and I'm looking forward to getting him in front of you all today. Jake, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you in virtual world. My name is Jake Poore. I hail from Orlando, Florida. I spent nearly 2 decades working for the friendliest place on earth, Walt Disney World, and a small jaunt in Paris for Euro Disneyland, now called Disneyland Paris. On 9/11, I made a correction in my mission in life, and I said it's time to humanize healthcare. And for the past, I guess it's going to be 20 years in December, I've been on that juncture, and I'm probably never going to go doing anything else. It's a labor of love. And so that's a little bit about me.
Excellent, Jay. And I can truly attest, and we'll dig into it in a few moments, that you really are called to do what you do. It's not a day of work. It's not a labor at all, but you truly are so good at it. And I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And I'm glad I get to look up to you because I want to be like you when I grow up, literally. You truly are an inspiration. But to kick things off, we like to be, have a nice little icebreaker. So we all like vacations. I know you live in Orlando, but if you could vacation in one location, Jake, all of your vacation days, anywhere in the world, where would that be and why?
Well, that's tough because I married a woman who's a world traveler. But there are two places that come to mind. I'll go with my favorite one, and it's right here in the great United States. And I've traveled literally all over the world. And that's Yosemite Valley. I took my kids there when they were young. We hiked trails and waterfalls, and my daughter, who was 9 at the time, actually cried at Glacier Point overlooking 6 waterfalls. She cried. I saw her shoulders from behind, and she was crying. I said, "What are you crying about?" She was, "This is so beautiful." Aww. And I think in that little nest in the California backgrounds, I think you can do so much, and I'm so proud that it's in our country. So I think that if I had to build a house in a little place and just spend the rest of my days, I probably pick Yosemite Valley, California.
Very nice, classy choice. Now, if I was your daughter, I probably would have been crying because I'm scared of heights, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, you would have been.
Now, Jake, here on the World Class Leadership Podcast, we love talking about everything life and leadership. We know leadership isn't always pretty. It can get ugly. So with the work that you do, you work with leaders all across the spectrum, all over the country and the world. And let's start with why leadership so hard?
Well, I mean, the world changes every single day. Just when you think you've got a budget, they cut it. Just think when you've got enough FTEs to do the job, they do. And we also promote to your level of incompetence, right? Not you, Pierre, not you. But if you were a great clinic manager, you were perfectly running a team of, 7, maybe 10, we gave you 3 more. We just keep promoting your bandwidth to your breaking point. And so healthcare needs to look at hospitality, has to look at industry and retail to find out if there's real balance. The other thing is when our costs go up, we can't raise the price. The government and Medicare and Medicaid, they're managing those prices for us. So we're, in healthcare, and I say we, I've been now 19 and a half years in healthcare. This is my calling as well, not just yours. And I think, what we have to do is be brilliant on the basics. We have to go back to the playbook to say, all right, why did I get into healthcare to begin with? Why am I actually a leader, supervisor, manager, CEO now? And what are the simple things? And, if you talk to any professional baseball or football player, they'll often talk about the warm-ups and the mechanics during the week, that prepared them in the middle of the season, because nobody wins a World Series or a Super Bowl with the same team we started with, right?
Very true. Yep.
I mean, we've got to stay healthy. And so as leaders, we need to practice that and preach that to our colleagues is we have to stay healthy. We have to take care of each other. We have to go back to basics. And you know, there's some other philosophies I live by, but I think that's hard. It's really hard. And that doesn't even include pandemics and hurricanes, tornadoes, and so on that we have in Oklahoma and Florida.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Jake. You know, I often preach that leadership is more than just your name tag. It's more than just your title. And I like when you talk about how you talk about, you know, it's literally taking care of yourself, the mechanics, the basics, and you can often overlook those key principles. Now, Jake, you know, I know you a lot better than the audience. Now, you spent some time, quite a bit of time with the happiest, friendliest place on earth. But when you talk about healthcare, especially healthcare leadership, that's probably not what we think about, the happiest place. You know, I'm the son of a physician. I hate needles and blood today.
And
so,
heights.
you know, and heights and heights. So, I mean, what would you say to the leader out there that is, you know, trying to inspire themselves to inspire others while they're not only in leadership, but healthcare leadership?
Well, I think you know, if you go back to basics, I think if you look at the yin and the yang symbol, right? That is a great philosophy that we need to practice today. So we need to treat our employees exactly how we want them to treat the patients. So if you think of the yin being your employees and the yang being the patients, I think sometimes as leaders, we get lost in the morass of all the chaos day to day. That we had a plan we put out Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, we came to work, and all we do is fight fires all week. Why? Well, partly because you're the boss. So if you're the boss, I'm going to bring you all my problems. No, wait a minute. I'm an autocratic leader. I'm a democratic leader. I want you all to take some ownership and authority. Well, no, that's not really how it works around here, Mr. New Leader. So I think some of the things we need to stop doing is we need to stop telling and start asking. I think especially in the middle of a pandemic, people are hurting. You know, this is the great resignation. People are not just leaving their practice of nursing or medicine, they're leaving the industry altogether. So the question is, how do we reconnect with those employees so they can reconnect with our patients? And it starts with simple things like asking, not telling. You know, top down doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't. We're in 2021, soon to be 2022, and we need to build a team, a collaborative mosaic of our culture. And there's pockets of excellence, but there's also silos of not excellence. And you know what I'm talking about. So if we're going to make sure there's a seamless handoff between, you know, the emergency room to the medical, to the ICU, to the med surge, down to the step down unit, to the admissions, to discharge, we've got to create a team sport. And if you look at outside our industry, and I think it's always good to do that. If you look at a team sport of anything, race car driving, football, baseball, whatever your basketball, whatever your team is, they've got a playbook. You know, our playbook has SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures. But where's our quiet at night strategy? Where's how we treat each other, not throwing each other under the bus? Where is it how we try to cover each other? You know, I got your back. I always do a cultural assessment question when I go into an organization before I do any training. I say, do you feel like you're part of an organization that has your back? And 60% of the employees sometimes say no. And you know we've got some work to do. So I think the yin and the yang is, you know, your job as a leader is not to take care of the patient, it's to take care of the employees, giving them the tools and resources and removing the barriers for them to do their job. Matter of fact, when I left a great organization, I worked for Disney for a while, and then I worked for Franklin Covey, time management company, Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits. And I went back to Disney because during an interview with one of the Disney executives, I asked him, I said, what is your job? He says, well, to be honest with you, this is a new business called the Disney Institute. My job is to remove the barriers for you to do your job. I'll take the job. I didn't even ask him what the salary was, Pierre. We want to be part of an organization that sets us up for success. And I think the less we come in with our own playbook and get the team to help us develop it together, that's when the team is going to help it when you're in meetings and things go awry.
Yeah, excellent. And with the concept of teamwork, everyone loves watching sports because we want to root on the champion, right? We want to see who's going to win. But oftentimes, Jake, to be really honest, I feel like a lot of leaders are losing in leadership, right? So people, turnover is high, engagement is low. So what are your words of encouragement for that leader who doesn't feel like they're winning? Their team isn't winning championship year after year. How would you encourage them?
Well, number one, I think it's a little soul searching. I'm an old school journaler. I take lots of notes and I reflect on them. I think that's the key is going back and reflecting on them. I think it's time to go ask yourself a question: is why'd you get into healthcare to begin with? What's your purpose, right? Okay, you're a VP. Great. You're the director. Oh, okay. But what's your purpose? Okay. I meet with a lot of environmental services frontline employees, and I said, what do you do here? I'm a housekeeper. No, you're not. You're providing environments that save lives. And they look at me like, I've never heard anything like that in 23 years of being here. You talk to someone in sterile processing. You're not just a glorified dishwasher cleaning surgical instruments. You're providing tools that save lives. You're not just passing trays as a food tray passer. You're providing food that saves lives. If they don't get the food and nourishment, they don't sleep. And if they don't sleep, they don't heal. If they don't heal, they don't go home. So ask yourself, why did you get into healthcare to begin with? Moments that matter are moments of wow, right? Ask any clinician that moment that mattered to them. And they're not going to tell you about how they birthed twins on the sidewalk outside the hospital. They're not going to talk about that, how they held someone's artery while the physician closed it. They're going to talk about how they made a connection and it made it matter to the patient and their family. And sometimes even at the last moment of death, right? So we have to go back, do our own soul searching, as well as then we have to do our one-on-ones with our team members. We say, why do you do what you do? Because you can replace them tomorrow with another FTE, but you're never going to get them up to the level of expertise of someone who's been there 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So I think that's where we have to start. We have to start backwards and then move forward together. You can't just come in, guns blazing and say, it's my way and we're going to do it this way. It'll get you some short-term wins, but over time you will die a sudden death.
Yeah, there are leaders out there who are convinced that they're so busy. Actually, they say they're too busy to connect one-on-one. Or if you ask them, are you connecting with your team? Oh, I see them every day. Oh, yes, I see them in the hallway. They know who I am. But there's a difference between the one-on-one connections, closed door, as well as the group connections or the passerby connections. Break that difference down and why is it so important, that nuance?
Well, the basic is reactive versus proactive, right? They're in my office all the time. I see them all the time. They're in my office, right? No, you're not rounding with purpose. You're rounding with reaction, or you're not even rounding at all. Your door should have a turnstile, and you should charge admission. And by the way, let's pretend you're going to charge them $10 extra today. Would you decorate differently? Would you greet them at the door, or would you stay behind your desk? Would you forward your phone and your pager, if you still have one of those, or turn off your iPhone? Would you come out from behind your desk and sit with them? We need to start treating our employees as volunteers, right? Because volunteers, they don't get paid and they don't have to be here. And there could be a snowbird. They could be in Florida tomorrow or Arizona, right? But we treat them with dignity and respect because they're giving their own personal time back to the organization. We need to treat them as royalty too. These frontline or these middle managers or these peers, or even my boss, they don't have to work here. And many of them are leaving. Why? It's not because of money. Don't fall into that trap. It's because of a lackluster relationship with you. So the first thing I do is I send every employee a 2-page survey. Pierre, what do you like to be called? Is it by your last name, your first name, or do you have a nickname, right? What's your favorite candy? What's your favorite thing to do when you're not at work? By the way, here's another yin and the yang, right? Why do we ask patients what they like to do when they're not in the hospital? So we can make a connection. Oh, you collect horses? My wife owns a horse. Oh, you have 2 dogs? What kind of dogs are they? Oh, I have shepherds. You have golden retrievers, right? We're making a connection. It's within 60 seconds. Why don't we do that with employees? Why do we start meetings? Our safety huddle, bed falls, emergency, ICU, great, meeting's over. Oh, how about good morning? How about hello? Does anybody have anything to celebrate? And have 2 in your hip pocket that you can celebrate people in the room. Start the meeting on the human and end the meeting on the human. Start on celebrations and end on appreciations. We start modeling this human business, human model. and we start creating a culture of appreciation. And that, I think, is a great thing for a leader to lead by. You can't push a rope. You got to pull by example. But they don't want to be told, they want to be led.
Sign me up, Jake. Sign me up. I want to work there. I want to work there. Let's do it. No, that's amazing. In my time, my leadership, spent time in human resources and operations. I've always felt you got to put the human into human resources, right? You got to put the human back into leadership. And everything around society, from commercials, they tug on your heartstrings, from retail, they want to make you feel like you're part of something bigger than you are. And I definitely resonate with that. So thank you for sharing. Now, Jake, leaders, they will fail. Individuals will have barriers. What's, one or two practical ways leaders can kind of overcome their barriers? Maybe things you found in your personal leadership journey that say, you know what, I'm going to fail, but it's okay. How do I push through that to become better?
Well, I mean, what's that 80s song from Tears to Fears? Scars are the memories we never lose. I love that.
I'm not that old, Jake. I'm not that old.
Well, I know you're not that old. You probably weren't even born yet. But scars are the memories we never lose. People think, oh, Jake, you worked at the happiest place on earth. That must have been great. Well, we don't publicize it, but I went through 7 layoffs. Okay. What did I learn from that? Okay. Did I survive them all? Yes, but I had to literally lay off people. But the way we did it, the way we listened, the way we proactively asked questions, the way we did it with dignity and respect, some of those employees we got to hire back, 6 weeks later, 6 months later, sometimes 6 years later. I think in every failure, we have to look at the silver lining. We're right in the middle of a pandemic. We thought it was going to go away. It looks like another variant's going to come out. Masks were gone away. Now they're back on again. We have to look at, okay, how do we learn from this? How do we learn from when it first came out? How do we learn from when it was really heavy? How do we learn from the politicizing of it? And how do we get better? And I think those scars are never going to go away. They're still failures in our eyes, but if we can learn something from it and teach others, and I think that's especially in academic medicine. I mean, we're a learning organization, but we need to pass these lessons learned down to our colleagues and our subordinates. And I think as someone an up-and-comer, as I was at Disney for many years, I think we need to seek out those mentors that are either to our left or our right or above us to say, you know what, that's great that you're giving me lots of great advice, but tell me when you failed and what did you learn? And I think those are the moments that make us great. And those are the moments that make organizations go from mediocre to exceptional, because we're not perfect, but we're striving for excellence. And I think that's different. We want progress every day, not perfection. And so I think to look back, to actually reflect, maybe even write it down, look back at that. And I think we're coming up to the end of the year, Pierre. This is a great time of the year to get a new journal or a new day planner, to plan out your year, to set some goals. And when you don't make those goals, and here's another problem we have in healthcare, we don't celebrate. When we meet our goals, we just make new goals. Yes. This is ludicrous to me, right? How about a party, for goodness sake? How about wearing jeans today because we met our goal? Something, right? Tell me I'm not wrong.
You are not wrong. And who doesn't like a party? We're at work so often. Let's celebrate. But you're right. We set more goals and we overlook the most human part of leadership, recognition and celebrating. I love it. I love it.
That's right. I think I just heard on NPR, I'm not political at all, but I heard Jen, the PR person for Joe Biden, she was on NPR yesterday and she said, what is the announcer said, what is Joe's advice to you? She says, when you mess up, fess up. Let's just start with that for a moment. As a team, when we fall, we fall. When the team makes a celebration or an individual on your team, you don't take credit. It's not your ego, it's we. And when the team fails, you fail. You're the leader of the team, you take the sword. So if you mess up, fess up. And then find out how we can make it better. I think the team, especially those who've been there a lot longer than you, new boss, will help you be successful. They don't want another new boss, right? So ask, don't tell. And I think if we do mess up, fess up, and then learn from it. And I think the other thing is don't make it up. That's the other thing he says. If you mess up, fess up, and don't make it up. Don't make up an answer you don't know the question to. Say, I don't know. and say, let's figure it out. Do you know? And use the years of experience around you to set us up for success. I think the pronoun of we is very powerful. And when I lived in France for a couple of years, that also means yes. So wouldn't it be nice to work in a culture of yes and not a culture of no? And that's that toxic environment. You start to connect yourself back to purpose. You can then influence others to connect them back to purpose. They're not just an FTE. They're not another DRG. They're part of a team creating something. You need to help them find out not only their job tasks, but the impact they're making in the world. You get them there, that'll alleviate a lot of the burnout and a lot of the turnover, because people won't be just looking to leave for other jobs. And of course, they all lie in the exit survey, right? Because they don't want to burn any bridges, and they want to get some per diem work, right? Yet it costs us $64,500 to get the next new nurse in who's green, right? $64,500. And if he or she leaves in 90 days, we just lost $64,500. So this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if it's meant to be, my dad used to say, it starts with me. So what are you going to do differently as a leader? Own those scars, mess up, fess up, and learn from it.
Jake, I've had the privilege of hearing you speak in person at least 3 times. I went from Florida all the way to Las Vegas, and I just wanted to be in the room and feed off the energy for different intensives. And one thing that never left me, that stuck with me, you talked about how getting the closest to the patient, to the customer, is so valuable. You even talked about the wheelchair and a camera. I never forgot that imagery. And I realized that as a leader, the high times and when I was the most innovative came because I got out of my office, went behind my desk, and I went close to the patient, sat in waiting rooms, connected in the hallway. And I want to thank you for reminding myself and leaders that the closer you get, that's where innovation starts. It's not in the boardroom. It's not in the war room where we have all these post-it notes on the ground, on the board. And so as we kind of start wrapping up, as leaders look, we're moving into a new year. We're still pivoting in this pandemic. How can leaders ensure that they're staying as innovative as possible in a world full of change?
Well, listen, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I think the paradigm has shifted. Is as a physician leader, a practice manager, you don't have to have all the answers. So stop putting this all on your shoulders. This is a team sport. You've got a call center, you got a front desk, you got an MA, you got an RN, you got an MD, a DO. There's a team here, but we're all running so fast, we don't ever stop, drop, and ask, what could we do differently? So you mentioned patients. There's the founder of the medicine in North America was a Canadian by the name of Sir William Osler. And he had a great quote: listen to the patient, they'll tell you the diagnosis. Okay. We need to practice that yin and yang. If we're going to do that as a physician with the patient, listen to their history, listen to their symptoms, they'll tell you the diagnosis, but we can't. We interrupt the patient every 15 seconds, right? So we don't have empathetic connections. They don't like us because we interrupt them. We don't hear the whole diagnosis. And as leaders, we don't do that either. We don't schedule for success. We wait for the door to open wide and a bunch of people coming in and land their complaints on your table. What if we practice that same medicine with our employees? Remember, we're not supposed to be taking care of the patient. We're supposed to be taking care of people who are. The closer you are to the patient experience, the easier this is. The people who take care of the bloody and the broken and get hugs and kisses of the bloody and the broken when they walk out the hospital, they get their own self-fulfillment. But you as a leader, the further away you are from the patient, the harder this is, because your employees are going, he don't know. She don't know what we go through here out there. Oh yeah, he was a nurse. He was a doctor, but he's not anymore. He's been a suit for too long, right? They don't think you know. So to sit in the waiting room, to interact with patients, to put on some volunteer jacket or some scrubs and sit at the front desk, to push a wheelchair or two and listen to what patients have to say, what team members who are pushing the wheelchair have to say, is going to make you the most brilliant person in the world. And again, you celebrate the we, not the me. And I think you start to do that, and I think you're going to be very successful. Because when we start to quote patients and frontline employees at executive meetings, who's going to argue with us? When we come in and say, well, I read and I heard and I saw, come on. Now that's fodder for a great argument. But when you say, I talked to a patient in cardiology yesterday, the wife of a patient who couldn't read our pre-surgery board because it said pre-op, post-op, NICU, PICU, PDQ. Now you've got something to really fix. And those are the little stones in our shoes that just fester and drive our patients and our frontline employees crazy. You start to remove those stones from their shoes, and then they'll give you the big rocks, the things that we can really work on together.
Someone listening today, Jake, needs to hear this. I felt impressed to share what really helped me propel in my leadership was when I started looking at my calendar and realizing it was just full of meetings that was just meetings to meet. And once a quarter, I'll challenge myself to clear my calendar and reset. Like, why was I still having this weekly meeting? Why was I still having this monthly meeting? And realizing I was killing myself with meetings that wasn't getting to the core of patient experience or to the customer. So I'll challenge anyone listening. If you're struggling with how do I have enough time to add this, just clear your calendar. Clear your calendar. Give yourself 2-3 weeks before you reset from reoccurring meetings and watch how much time you actually have. And realizing you can move things and engage your staff and your colleagues just by making time outside of meetings. So I felt really inspired to share that. So Jake,
let me offer one little thing, because I love that idea, but people go, oh, I can't just clear my calendar. If you're a junior executive, well, let me give you this: 1 or 2 hours a week. Chris Boyd is the area manager, the CEO of Diablo Kaiser Permanente. Good friend of mine. We're also best friends with Quint Studer, another guru in healthcare. And I don't say I am, but he's a guru in healthcare. But one of the things we got from Quint way back when is 2 hours a week. Just block from 10 a.m. to noon on Wednesdays that you're going to go to one department. And then call ahead. Who can I recognize? Who has an issue? I'm coming. I'm telling you I'm coming. Why do we tell them we're coming? Because we want to set them up for success. There's no gotcha. We want to create a culture of gratitude, culture of appreciation. So when I get there, I want to seek them out. So if you're sick of being stuck in meetings and you're sick of reading the numbers from HR about all the turnover and all the recruiting costs and how long it takes 8 months to get a new surgical nurse and $137,000 to get a new surgical nurse, holy smokes, what can we do with that money if she didn't leave or he didn't leave, right? So I'm with you about the meetings and about clearing your calendar, but do baby steps. Try 1 hour a meeting. And this is what the wonderful thing about this, Pierre, and you know this because you're a great executive. You'll get more out of it than they will.
So true. That is so true. Yeah, I love rounding. I need to get better at it. I'm still learning, but you're right. The colleagues will tell you what's missing, how to solve it. Jay, this has been great. I could go on and on, but definitely want to be sensitive to time. But now for those who want to get a hold of you, get in contact, learn more, we'll put the details in the show notes. But what's the best way to get in contact with you?
WeCreateLoyalty. That's the name of my website, WeCreateLoyalty.com. You'll get all the information there. I wrote a book called 99 Lessons I Learned from Disney to Improve the Patient Experience. You can get a copy of it there on Amazon. But WeCreateLoyalty is all you need to remember. That's our website. That'll let you get a hold of all of us.
Excellent. And by personal experience, great book. Thank you for putting that knowledge out there. Thank you for making time for us, Jake, and best of luck as you continue to inspire people all around the country, all around the world. And for my listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of the World Class Leadership Podcast, encouraging you to move from being a follower to an agent of change. If you've been encouraged by this message, please leave some comments. Please share this with at least 3 of your friends, because we need to ensure we're spreading more positivity, more encouragement, because leadership is a team sport and we are in this together. Until next time, take care, everyone.